everyone. Welcome to today's Manifesting Abundance show. I'm your host. I'm Kathryn Yarborough, and I'm happy to be here right now with Liz Fletcher Brown. I'll introduce her. I'll bring her on so she can tell you about herself in just a moment. We've been having some tech challenges today, which we are both hoping are disappearing right now as we actually are here live with you. And so, anyway, the purpose for this show is to inform and educate and inspire in a fun way those of us who are on a journey to create our lives in alignment with what really matters to us. And so it's my intention to interview people who are creating their lives by design, who have been doing that, and who are role models to all of us, and to have conversations about that process and see what unfolds in the conversation. Because sometimes just by talking, something new and inspirational comes through the conversations, and that's one of the things that I totally love. So I have known Liz for probably something like 5 to 6 years, or known of her maybe even longer. I saw her speak at an On Purpose Woman conference several years ago, and just absolutely loved her presentation. She's a dynamic speaker, and she has a book, and she's a coach. So Liz, welcome to this show.
Thanks. It's really great to be here. It's nice to see you and to reconnect after, I know we stay in line virtually, but it's nice to actually see you and have a conversation with you. So we'll be having a live catch up.
I know, exactly. So I know a bit about you and what you do, but you are new to the listeners, possibly. So I invite you to just share just a little bit about you and what you want all of us to know about what you've been up to, what you do.
Well, great. Well, first of all, your listeners might detect I live in Annapolis, Maryland. But as you might detect, I wasn't actually born there. I'm from Paisley in Scotland. And when I was 21, I had this dream of dancing at Carnegie Hall. I don't know where I got the idea of Carnegie Hall. I think it was from some movie I saw when I was a little kid. But I used to get up onto the kitchen table and tap dance and say, "It's Liz Fletcher," and I'd pretend I was at Carnegie Hall. So I had this drive to dance professionally. So when I finished my last day of college classes for the dance school or dance academy I was at in London, I bought a red eye one-way ticket to New York City and a $200. So I felt like I owned the world. And I showed up at JFK.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing. $200 in a one-way ticket. You were one courageous young woman. Woo!
Oh, it was fun. It was just a huge adventure. And so I had a blast. I was in New York for, about 9 years dancing professionally, which I just love. And so after that, but I did eventually leave New York City. I all of a sudden had a hankering for Hawaii. So I moved to Hawaii. I lived there for, 5 or 6 years. And I love to travel, I love to meet people, I love to go to new places. And after I stopped dancing professionally, I went into the healing arts and I became a massage therapist, a yoga therapist. But I still kept taking dance classes because that's like my first love. And I know you've got a dance, you know what that's like. Yeah. And so I was living in Bellingham, Washington, another one of the places I love in the Pacific Northwest. And I had this wonderful ballet teacher, and she used to row us all up at the bar. Now, she also taught at the University of Western Washington University, so she'd bring these dance students, these young kids that could dance with their legs up here, and of course then there were more seasoned adults, and many of us had danced professionally, of course. So she would row us all up and she'd say, "Ladies, I don't care how high you kick your legs. I don't care how many pirouettes you can do. All I care about is that when you dance with full wattage." And we did. You know that feeling when you're doing what you absolutely know you're meant to be doing? That, it's just the greatest feeling. And so
I'm gonna interrupt you here. I'm for a couple reasons. One is that I just want to let the listeners know, if you're having a difficult time hearing all of Liz's words, it's because of the connection. But Liz, most of what you're saying is coming through, and there is some stillness, some pauses. And oh my gosh, I just made the connection. And I know you're going to finish this story, but Liz's whole message is about full wattage, living at this full wattage. And I know what that's like. I was not a professional dancer. I got my master's in dance, and I loved those moments. And they were few and far between for me because I wasn't that technically great. But when I put my whole heart into what I was doing, oh my gosh, that feeling with dance is just amazing. And now when I do dance and move, it doesn't matter. When I put it wholeheartedly in there, it doesn't matter what my technique is. That's over. What matters is that connection to the divine for me, and just fully expressing myself. So I want to hear more about full wattage. I love the idea. I didn't know what you were talking about with your book before. So, and your coaching. So tell us more. This is wonderful.
Well, yeah, I mean, you said there's something about dance that it really does. It connects you to people, to the divine, to that unity. There's just something that happens when you're totally in that flow. So I know you can relate to that as well. And so I used to leave that dance class and I would think to myself, you know, I love that feeling that I get when I'm dancing. And I love that, but I don't want to just dance with full wattage. That's how I want to live my whole life.
Yeah.
And so at the time, I love, my work with my clients with massage, and I love my yoga, but I had this feeling I was supposed to work with big groups of people. And so it just felt like this disconnect, it was like, I know there's something else for me to do. And so over the years, it's kind of morphed. I started teaching workshops and seminars and retreats, and more and more integrating the two things I most love, which is dance and the theater and the arts and personal professional development. And so now a lot of my income comes from being a keynote speaker, which is, it gets very dramatic. It's a lot of storytelling, but of course with a message that helps people to really find out, what does full wattage mean for them? And what is it that helps us to live with full wattage? And what is it that gets in the way? And how can we move beyond that?
Wow. I'm so excited. I don't know how I missed that when you presented before, or it didn't like click for me, the whole idea of living with full wattage. And because I mean, who doesn't want that? And there's so much that so in so many ways, I know I've held myself back, and that's constantly what I'm talking about with my work. I know you're doing a teleseminar later today, and I'm doing a teleseminar later today around I'm doing one around my 7-step shift, which is helping me to live full out and with full wattage. And you're helping people out. It's just so cool. And I when I go out, and sometimes I go to a fast food restaurant, and in the morning, and I journal, and it's a way that I organize myself and my life and my time. And I look around sometimes, and I'm like, oh, those people are not living. They're not full wattage,
Yeah.
And I think that not even everybody even is open to the possibility that could happen. What have you discovered as you've been speaking about this and coaching people? What do people say?
Well, what I've found is that there's really 3 things that you need to know, and there's 4 steps that when I look at people that are really living that, things that they need to do. And so just to give you a quick recap, what I found the essence of it is that the 3 things you need to know is, first is you have to be really clear on what your sense of purpose is, because people who live with full wattage, they have this well of energy that comes from their core. It's like they know that they're doing what they were put on this earth to do. And so I think part of it is to really we get so busy in our day-to-day lives, and that we often forget, what is it all for in the first place, to stay connected to the reason that we're doing it all. And so a lot of the clients I work with, even though a lot of them are either heart-centered entrepreneurs or heart-centered organizations, I work with a lot of nonprofits where it's very mission-based and driven. And yet, even so, we can get disconnected from that sense of why we're doing this in the first place. And so people live with full wattage, they manage to keep at the forefront the why. And then the second thing that I've seen that seems to be the commonality is that the second thing that people know is they're really clear on what their strengths, gifts, and talents are. I know for me, the places and the times when I feel most lacking in that is when I've drifted away from what my natural style, my natural preferences are, which is easy to do when you run your own business and you're wearing all the hats, and all of a sudden you find yourself doing something and you get frustrated and you think, oh my goodness, I really should be delegating this out. I've got no business doing this. And I know that's where a lot of us lose that juice. And I know a lot of times people too, unfortunately, a lot of the people that come to me for coaching, I'm sure you've experienced this as well, is they know they're not using their strengths, not even a fraction of what their strengths are in their work, and they're looking for something that really integrates that. So the second thing I found is that you got to be really clear on what your natural strengths and your talents are. And then the third thing to know, people say they know what their values are, but I'll be honest, I have an exercise that I do in my workshops and my keynotes even, that really helps people put as a practice. It really helps people to really get clear on what their values actually are, not what they say. People always say, oh yeah, honesty, integrity, but is that really what really matters to you? So getting really clear on what is it that really does matter to you on a personal level, and then use those three things to kind of guide your life. So really your purpose becomes like your North Star, but your strengths and your talents are like the engine that drive you towards that, but your values are the rudder that keep you on track. Because when you're off sense of your values, you can feel it in your gut. So I found that those are the three things that people really need to know to be able to really keep that sense of full wattage that gives them that energy from within.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me, and I think it's challenging. I think it's really challenging to just know what your purpose is. And I mean, I've been doing this work since in my 20s, and I just turned 55 on August 2nd, 2 days ago. And since my 20s, I know.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. I had really a great birthday. I was very clear. I did this fun thing on Facebook. I posted on both my personal page and on my business page. I said what I wanted for my birthday was for people to come over to my business page and like it and like posts and share them. And I got a lot of activity there, and it was so much fun, and people were giving me great wit.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it was very cool, and I felt very supported and loved and validated. And it was interesting because I don't usually ask for things for me in such a clear way, but and it felt all right. So somehow or another, I was doing something. I was clear about something here. I'm writing down notes. I was clear about something. but my point about all this is, I've been working on this since my 20s, and I feel like now I think I know that my purpose is to be a bridge between spirituality and day-to-day living. And that's how I think about it. I don't know that it's a business purpose, but it's like it's helping all of us on a spiritual journey be able to integrate that in who we are every day, and what we do with our lives. So and sort of clarifying that's been interesting for me. It's like, yeah, okay, I think that's it. And all right, so let me go about doing that. So and that's it's been a journey. So how do you help people discover that? What do you do?
Well, one of the things I talk about is that you just said it, that purpose, for example. I mean, I use assessments and tools and exercises and interactive things to help people get in touch with everything from meditation to journaling to very specific processes. And one of the things, especially when it comes to say purpose, is that people think that it is like a destination, but it truly is. It really is the journey. And we leave clues all through our whole life journey as to what our purpose is. So really what my work is helping people go back and pick up the clues. And in that, because it's something that's in us, it's not something we have to go out there and find, it's in us. And so we just have to go in and find those clues. And so really the first step is really to clarify those things. But as you know, getting clear about them is one thing, but the second step for me then is to organize, so, and I use CORE because I'm talking about in dance, you have to connect to your core. And so same here. So C stands for clarifying, the three things you have to clarify: your purpose and your strengths and your values. But O is the next step, to organize. And that really is really, unless you really take the time to organize your life around them. And that's really where a lot of the coaching comes in as well. Then it's like giving it lip service, but what does it really look like? I mean, what do you say is important to you, and how you spending your days and your time, and does it match? What is it? Where's the disconnect between what you say your strengths are and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis? So that there's a real practical side of it as well.
Yeah, I want to add. I'm always on a personal growth journey, Liz. It never seems to. But I had a conversation with two other Facebook people. One, I'm actually really good friends with. The other, I just know from Facebook, but I met her face to face with my other friend. And anyway, it was very interesting because I was sitting there across from these women, and I was the only of the three that I know about who's actually had training and practice as any kind of like therapist person. Like, I'm actually trained as a dance movement therapist, as you know, and an integrative breath worker. And then my manifestation coaching and the coaching that I do now evolved out of all of that in my own life experience. And what I realized was that in some ways, I'm going to put this in quotes, I've been competing with these people who are much better at reaching lots of people on Facebook. I mean, they are masters at it. They're very good at it, and they create products and sell them. And I realized during that conversation that I am much better. Again, I'll put this in quotes because, I mean, what's better, what's worse? But I'm talented in working one-on-one with people, and I'm talented. And this was like an aha, recognizing my strengths. And I'm talented in like leading a small group, like guiding a group in a specific facilitated experience. And it was like, oh, they shouldn't be doing that. I mean, not that they shouldn't if they feel called to grow in that way, but it was like, well, that's what I'm good at. Here I'm trying to do this other thing, which I'm okay at, and there's this other thing, and it made me really reconnect and recommit to the services that I'm providing, and that it makes sense that I do it because I'm good at it.
Yeah.
So, and anyway, so sometimes it helps to not compare, but to look at, for me, to discern my strengths in relationship to other people's. And I don't know.
Absolutely. I think that's really smart, because you do, there's like a mirror, you do get clear on that. And I know for me, when I first started coaching, and as soon as I got a full schedule, part of me was like, I've got a job, because I like the flexibility of the teaching and the training and the traveling, and then doing some one-on-one, but not a lot of it. So I'm really selective about taking just a few one-on-one clients, and I work with them really closely. And it's more like a VIP experience because I take on so few of them. They get a lot because they're so in my world for the time I'm working with them. So, but and so that for me, that is the selective part. And yet I love the group dynamic, and that's what I don't have full wattage. But yet I can do group processes, workshops, online stuff, and I get energized from that. So I think we can look at what other people are doing, and we can imagine ourselves doing it, and we can realize, and it's so perfect that we all have, even for me, a lot of my colleagues in speaking, I've got some colleagues that their sweet spot is a room of 5 to 12 high-level executives, or in a board meeting or something, and have other speakers that are horrible in that situation. Put them in a room in front of 2,000 people, and they shine. So even within the the type of work you do, the narrower you can get in what your sweet spot is. Not that you won't do things outside of it, but the more you're on task, and the more you'll have that sense of full wattage, because you're kind of nailing what you're best at.
Yeah. So this is so cool. Okay. All right. So I know that you are sharing. I love this. I love my life has changed because now I have a term for that feeling of full wattage. That experience of full wattage. I get it. And and I want to hear about, I know you have 4 things to do when we were doing clarifying, organizing, and there's probably 2 more. Is that correct?
Yeah, clarifying was one, organize is two. So R is release.
Okay.
That's a big one, because R is to release the saboteurs that get in our way. And that's really all the things that stop us from living with full wattage. And so I think that's such an important step, because I think we tend to undermine the power of how our own self-doubt and judgment can kind of get in our way. And so that's, I think, why the work that you do, the work that I do, where we really support people through this transition as to living with more full wattage is so important, because I really do think that we don't often realize how powerful that pool is to stay the same. I mean, our brains don't like change. They hate change, any kind of change at all. Even if it's really positive change, there's a part of our psyche that will try to keep things the same. And so I know my job is to guide people through that process. But I'm always amazed that just when someone's about to take this, they know what they want, they're going for it, and they're just about to, maybe it's like the perfect job, and they land it, they're excited, they're about to make that final commitment, and all of a sudden it's like, Liz, the job I have, it's really not that bad after all. And that's like or the relationship, they complain about this relationship they're in, this undermine the heck out of them, and they're just about to leave it when all of a sudden, he or she is not that bad. There's people out there have a lot worse than me, and it's like they just tuck themselves right back into it, because we underestimate the power in our psyche. I call them the sirens. So you like this one. So it's almost like in our head we have these sirens, and I don't mean like sirens. I mean like in Greek mythology. So the sirens are these beautiful mythical creatures that are sometimes seen as half woman and half bird, or half woman, half mermaid, or half fish, and they sit in the rocks and they like lure the sailors in with these exquisite voices. And I think that in our head we have these sirens, and their job is to lure us back into our own little world and not allow us to step forward out of it. So I actually have a whole program on the survival bubble, which is this reality that we create to keep ourselves safe, the sirens that keep us in it, and the sage, of course, which is the wisdom that takes us outside of it. So R stands for release, to let go of all those things that hold us back, especially our own self-doubt and judgment.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love it. I love it. The image of the sirens makes a lot of sense to me. The word that was coming to me was entropy. That I think it's a physics word, something like whatever is in motion stays in motion, whatever is not moving stays not moving, something like that. It's like that. It's like there's some actual concept. I mean, there's so many things that we can use to understand that experience. And talk about challenging change. It's just really challenging. But I want to come back. Because we're going to hear the last step. But I want to come back to the whole idea of living, full wattage living. And because there's this man that's popping up into my head. Now, this man wasn't anybody really special in my life. When I went to graduate school for dance, he was one of the modern dance teachers. And I just keep seeing him in my head because he was passionate. His wife was there too, and I don't know, she was probably passionate too, but I just got, when he like taught, and he would make these noises, and he would be like this moving, and he was like, and I think he actually did something like and I keep seeing him in my head, and I'm thinking about the whole experience of passion and sexuality. That, yes, of course, there's orgasms and there's getting naked and all of that stuff, which is really cool, and the full expression that way. But this full wattage living is taking that energy. It's like root chakra energy and putting it, energizing our whole body. It's actually really all of our chakras opening, and just including the first chakra and all.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, crazy. It's interesting what you said, because when I first thought about who do I know lives with full wattage, a lot of people that came to mind were a lot of my artist friends that were dancers or musicians, or it was a big, and it's just that there's something about that creative energy that makes you so alive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this, whether it's like the sexual, the creative, the all of it. It's just it's that enlivening energy that is so powerful and profound.
Yeah. And it's interesting because over the last several years, as I've been doing my work and moved my work online, one of the things that I've done is I keep creating new courses or new programs. And this part of me as an entrepreneur, I'm going, Kathryn, you got to stay with the same thing, girl. let people know what you really stand for here. But I think that the creator in me, like the idea of not creating, like it's just like it's almost feels deadening. So I'm, one of my challenges is to balance that, keeping a consistent message out in the world that's big enough for me to live into and to stay consistent, and but to still create in the ways that are right for me, so I feel that sense of passion that like enlivens me, even if it's just sitting in front of the computer or recording meditations or something. But anyway, I have shared so much here with you, Liz, more than I usually do. But I want to hear about the fourth thing that we need to all do. What do we need to do?
What was that? Sorry, you cut out a little bit there. What was the question?
What is the fourth thing that we need to do?
Oh, the fourth. So we've got C, which is clarify your purpose, your strengths, and your values. You've got O, which is organize your life around them. You've got R, which is to be aware and release the saboteurs that get in the way. And E is engage. And that is when you get super clear on the vision of where you're going. But here's work with, especially when we start off in the coaching process or in a training, is that they have a sense of where they want to go, but it's based on some idea of what they think they should be doing, coming from their core. But it's like when you create a vision that comes from the core of who you are, there's much more likelihood that you're going to manifest it, because it's like so important. It's like you have that passion, that creative energy to make it happen. So there's creating the vision that comes from your core, and then there's getting super clear on what are the forces at play right now in your reality, and then the engage is really what are the next steps that will take you from your current reality to that vision, staying aware of all the elements and the forces at play, including what I call the sirens, that are the saboteurs that hold you back. So that's the essence of it. So the C is to clarify your purpose, strengths, and values, organize your life around them, release the saboteurs that get in the way. Is engage, and that's I guess if it was a Star Trek, I would say. But you just keep moving forward towards it. Keep the next best thing that you can, and so
well, that's awesome. So,
and it will manifest.
So I know that you're currently doing a teleseminar, and I'm going to write a blog, and most people are going to be seeing this video in my blog, and so I'm going to send them to a link. And where am I sending them to? What should people do if they want to do? Or
so I, like yourself, I do ongoing teleclasses and webinars. I'm about to do another launch of a coaching program I open up twice a year, which is basically called 4 Steps to Ignite Your Brilliance. And it is based on those 4 steps. We go really deep. It's 12 weeks. We really go into taking people through that journey of their, like, clarifying their purpose and their strengths and values and all that whole process in a group format, because I love groups, so it really helps people to do that in a supportive environment, and it gives people structure within which to explore those things. So I have ongoing programs, and I also do free webinars and teleseminars. So that link that you have will take people to whatever I'll keep it updated with what my next offering is. So just so right now it will take you to a teleseminar that's happening later today, but then I'll switch it and I'll put a list of different things people can choose. And sometimes if there's nothing live coming up, I'll switch it and I'll put a video or something on there. So there'll be things people can access no matter when they're listening to this. If they're listening to this next week, a month from now, there'll be something there that will give them a little taste of my work.
Okay, excellent.
I just thought I look forward to that. I look forward to meeting some of your peeps.
That would be really great. I would love that. So very cool. Oh my goodness, Liz, talk about an energizing call. This is just really fun to connect with you here. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. It's really great to connect with you again and to be able to have a little conversation.
Thanks. Absolutely. I just totally love this. So folks, listen, my life is totally crazy right now. I've got a couple more shows scheduled over the next several weeks, but I haven't had a chance to reach out to beautiful people to schedule them. So I may be coming on just me. I may find some more people in the next week or so to get, but I am in the midst of letting people know about my flow group and being able to join that. So just look out for information about that, and I will see you there. So thank you, friends, for listening in. Thank you, Liz, for being here. Namaste, everyone. I will be back.